Um, yeah, we're going to talk about bacillus and why bacillus just, first of all, it's fun. Second, it's a good example of endospore forming microorganism, and we were talking about endospore stains. So the genus Bacilli, Bacilli is plural, okay, bacillus is singular, are aerobic, gram-positive, endospore forming microorganisms. A couple of species that I want to mention are not pathogenic. So Bacillus subtilis is a famous research object, often considered to be the most studied gram-positive microorganism in the world. Then really interesting microorganism, Bacillus thuringiensis. I don't know if you have heard about the insecticide called BT, but BT is basically a protein isolated from Bacillus thuringiensis, which is phenomenally effective at killing bugs. And not just bugs, it is really good at killing mosquitoes. It is certified organic. It is, which is kind of, I don't know. Never mind. And it is safe for humans. So in Florida, BT is literally sprayed from the planes and helicopters for mosquito control, mostly over southern tip of the state and over 7 Keys. Okay. Now, two pathogenic bacilli that I wanted to mention is, first is Bacillus cereus. So Bacillus cereus produces a toxin which results in a food poisoning. And the mechanism is really interesting. So endospores, I mentioned before, are extremely resilient, right? So these endospores end up often in rice, like, regular rice. So if you cook rice at home, usually you get it to boil and then you eat it, that's all. Now imagine that this is the restaurant and they cook a lot of rice and then they have to serve it to the customers, so they will keep it at maybe 50-60 degrees Celsius, so it's hot and and it will stay like this for basically a day. So when you boil the rice, endospores survive, but then when you start cooling it down, it's rich in nutrients, the environment, and there's a lot of fluids, a lot of water. So endospores will start to germinate, and they will produce vegetative cells. And those vegetative cells will produce toxin. And then vegetative cells will die because it's not the best environment for them. It's okay-ish. Does that make sense? But the toxin will remain in the food. And then we will consume that food and you will get food poisoning. I'm not trying to damage the reputation of Asian restaurants. This is an intrinsic problem of rice cooking, and it was the outbreaks of Bacillus cereus associated food poisoning have been recorded like over and over again. Okay, this is a pretty mild, like couple of days on the sheeter, and that's it. Now, the one that is really famous for its notoriety is Bacillus anthracis. And it's a causative agent of anthrax. So, anthrax is a zoonotic disease, meaning that it can be acquired from animals. I'm going to put them in one big category, ruminants. So that includes cows and sheep. For instance, in Russia, one of the main source of periodic anthrax outbreaks is reindeer farming, caribou farming. Okay, it's a sustenance for original people who live in the northern part of the country, and there are outbreaks associated with reindeer all the time. That makes sense? So there are 3 forms of the disease. If somebody gets in the physical, like contact with animals, I don't know, the herder, okay? It's going to be cutaneous anthrax, which is not, I mean, it's bad, but you have time, let's put it this way, okay? It looks really bad. It's a massive scar. Now, if the person inhales endospores, it becomes pneumonic or respiratory form of anthrax, and this is extremely fast and extremely severe and very, very lethal. The main problem with respiratory anthrax, you may not have enough time to treat a patient. Okay, so patient will die so fast. And then the third route of infection is via GI, consumption of the meat from infected animals. Okay, so this condition is very, very uncommon in the United States. I told you that in Russia, main outbreaks happen in the north. There was one like 3 years ago. 300 people were infected. One kid died because he ate the meat from the animal. Other than that, it's very treatable. Does that make sense? So anthrax came to public eye of sorts in 2001. There were anthrax attacks. I don't know if you remember, some of you may not have been born back then, I don't know. So a disgruntled employee at CDC basically loaded lyophilized anthrax into envelopes and sent it out. Since then, by the way, every piece of mail in the United States is tested for anthrax. There's a company that makes special machines that do it. Okay? Yeah, so people opened it, immediately aerosolized, inhalation, respiratory form. Once they figured out that it was deliberate anthrax attack, they were very, very careful, and they were ready to treat patients and so on and so forth. By the way, this was the only microorganism that was ever considered, to my knowledge, like really considered to become a bioweapon. Yeah, both Russia and the United States came, Soviet Union and the United States came pretty close, but bioweapons suck, they're really inconvenient, it's hard to weaponize, it's hard to deliver, they're really hard to control, so good old nukes are much better. Okay? Questions? Okay.